Hentai, for those pretending like they don't know, is a type of Japanese cartoon, but unlike anime, which is a fun-filled animated experience for the whole family, hentai tends to feature some more adult, sexually explicit, sometimes pornographic material that you might want to try not watching with the whole family. Now you may be thinking, and you're definitely not thinking this, but you may be thinking, Jack, that is fascinating, but you don't even watch regular anime. Why have you been watching hentai? And yeah, I'll admit, hands up, I was just curious to see what it was like, what can I say? But as I got further and further into this series, I found myself getting fully immersed in the plot and getting attached to a lot of the characters, which made me question, does hentai really deserve the horrible, terrible name that it has? So today, you and me are gonna watch a hentai called Citrus, and hopefully you might just see in it what I saw in it, which was far more than just animated smut. The show opens with Yuzuchi, who's a very happy, upbeat person getting dressed all fancy for her first day at a new school in a brand new town. She had to move because her mom wanted to be closer to her new husband, who Yuzuchi hasn't actually met yet, but she's not too bothered. All she cares about is look good, be popular, and make boyfriends.
My mom kinda up and found herself a new husband. Because of that, we had to move to a new town. Meaning I had to start life all over at a totally different high school.
Because Yuzuchi has never actually been in a relationship before, and she figures that a new school could be the perfect chance to find one, except, no it is not, because it's an all-girls school. Oops.
It's just gonna be downhill from here.
Throughout the school day, she gets her phone confiscated by school president May, who is the school's founder's granddaughter. She gets exiled for looking different, but she does make a friend called Harumi, who's very nice. The weird thing about the show is that there's no sexualized nudity or barely any bad language, because the show did actually air on television in Japan, but at the risk of having a PG, family-friendly, normal anime, which I don't know why they didn't want, they decided to throw in a bunch of these provocative, half-sexualized moments, such as when Yuzuchi is walking home, she accidentally stumbles upon school president May making out with a teacher. Yes, that is messed up. I completely agree. We're on the same page. But it does ultimately contribute to the plot, and it isn't left as a loose end. So if you're able to put up with these sussy plot points throughout the show, good, because it's better to have these moments progress the story than to just be there for no reason, if you know what I mean. When Yuzuchi gets home, her mum reveals that her new husband's daughter, or Yuzuchi's new stepsister, will now be living with them, and you're never gonna guess who it is. It's May. It's May, you guys. School's founder's granddaughter and school president, May.
Why are you in my house?
Because I live here. It's so nice to meet you, Mother.
Oh, hell no. That's my mom, not yours.
May doesn't talk very much, and when she does, it comes out extremely monotone and unenthusiastic. This, combined with barely ever smiling, is actually a really clever way for the writers to show that May is actively suppressing her emotions, because when she does smile, or frown, or raise her voice, it captures the viewer's full attention because we don't see it very often.
Really? But your dad's always traveling. You must have been by yourself for a while.
I haven't really seen my father in almost 5 years.
Also, we're told that May doesn't talk to her dad anymore because he left her at a young age, and it's kind of implied that this is the reason she's unhappy all the time, but in episode 5, it is confirmed to us that this is why she's unhappy all the time. Later that evening, Yuzuchi keeps trying to start conversations with May, but she gets ignored every time. So to really get May's attention, she brings up what she saw on her way back from school and starts poking fun at May, saying, you know, what was it like? Was that your first kiss?
She's ignoring me? Alright then, little Miss Perfect, if that's how you want to play. So, you made out with the teacher today, huh? Now, if you ask me, I'd bet that kiss was your first.
There's no sugarcoating this. May then kisses Yuzuchi and says, that's what it was like, and then leaves the room.
I've dreamed about my first kiss for so long. What is wrong with her? And it was just stolen from me. I'm my own sister!
Now I get it, they're stepsisters. That is weird. I don't want to make this video anymore, but trust me, that is the most sus plot point you will see in this whole show. And I know that at this point I'd probably have better luck defending Hitler, but please trust me, this show has more to offer than you may think. Also, I didn't say this in the video, but it's kind of implied in context that Yuzuchi didn't hate every waking second of the kiss. She was just caught very off guard. The next day, Yuzuchi and Harumi find out that the creepy teacher from earlier was only after Mei for her potential inheritance money.
I just have to play the part for 2 more years. After that, I'll be set for a while.
So they tell Mei, and then they tell the whole school, and then the bad guy gets fired. And this was done by Yuzuchi out of kindness, but the only reason this whole little side quest even exists is to show that Yuzuchi does care about Mei. And with this idea now in the open air, the next plot point is going to work a whole lot better. The next day, Mei continues to act cold and distant with Yuzuchi, but that doesn't matter because Mei's grandfather has put his foot down and said, no, Mei will now be living with him instead of Yuzuchi's family because she's been deemed a bad influence because of the stunt that she pulled at school.
Employees of Mr. Ihata. They said they were taking Mei to live with her grandfather. She didn't argue either. She just left without saying a word.
Please don't cry. We'll figure this out, I promise.
As the long days go by, Yuzuchi begins to really miss Mei, and over a conversation with Harumi, she realizes that maybe she's developed feelings for her stepsister. So she goes to tell Mei how she's feeling, but when she arrives at the crib, she sees no one there but Mei's grandfather struggling on the floor all alone. So she takes him to the hospital and falls asleep in the waiting room because she really does want to make sure that this guy is okay, that he's all good. Mei also gets called into the hospital to check on her grandfather, and the nurse tells her all about how persistent Yuzuchi was in making sure that this guy was okay, which actually gives Mei a bit of a fresh perspective on Yuzuchi.
Oh, I meant to tell you, a darling blonde girl about your age brought him in here earlier today. She was a big help, whoever she was. Stayed right by his side until everything settled on down.
So she wakes her up and takes her outside to say how grateful she is. There's also kind of a weird moment where Mei tells Yuzuchi that her name is Mei.
Mei. Just call me Mei. It is my name.
Huh?
You told the nurse to call his granddaughter, but you didn't give her a specific name to contact. I can only assume you haven't been using my name because you can't remember what it is.
Which I'm assuming worked better in the manga because it's usually pretty annoying for the audience to hear something that they already know. However, just like this entire scene, it was done to establish for the first time a mutual relationship between the two characters. This technique was also used in Wall-E, which is a movie. Mei's grandfather also allows Mei to move back in with Yuzuchi now that he's seen that she's not just a nasty little troublemaker. A few days later, Yuzuchi takes Mei along with her as she goes to see her biological dad, who is dead, but it's not really a sad scene, and nor was it supposed to be. Yuzuchi has clearly gotten over her dad's death, which I think is pretty cool, and in general, I think when a loved one dies but they've had a really impactful or long-lasting life, it's not a tragedy. Like, it'll be sad, but a life that's been used to its fullest extent isn't worth mourning over, I think. But let me know in the comments your thoughts on death. Hello everybody, I'm just realizing now that this video is quite a bit longer than I anticipated it being, so thank you very much for watching up until this point. I appreciate you. Mei watches as Yuzuchi talks to her father, and afterwards explains to Yuzuchi that she's worried about her own relationship with her father, and that she thinks they may never be close again. So in that moment, Yuzuchi decides to retire her growing feelings for Mei and just focus on being a good-ass sister, and she explains to Mei that she's there to help in whatever way she can. And then Mei smiles. The fact that Mei chooses to smile in this moment as opposed to any other moment in the show very clearly tells the audience that a strong relationship with her dad is worth more to her than anything else we've seen so far. In fact, the only reason that she chose to be school president, or, ran for school president and then won, is to make her dad proud if they ever ended up meeting again. The smile also indicates that Mei feels some kind of warmth in Yuzuchi, and the idea that she's able to show any kind of emotion in front of her tells us that Mei must feel safest with Yuzuchi out of anyone else we've seen in the show so far. That night, completely out of the blue, Mei's dad, aka Yuzuchi's stepdad, pulls up to the crib. and he's actually very nice.
I finally returned.
Who are you?
Ah, you must be Yuzu.
Yeah, but I don't know who the heck you are.
Your mom's right. You are so adorable!
Mei refuses to talk to him because she's still pretty mad that she got left by him as a child, but he explains to Yuzuchi when he gets the chance that he has to travel constantly all over the world for his work, and he wishes he didn't have to leave Mei. Over the next few days, Mei and her dad don't say a word to each other until ultimately Yuzuchi helps them put the past behind them and get on good terms before Mei's dad has to fly off to another country for work. Now, why did I rush this part of the show? Because just like in the last story arc and the next one that I'll leave out from this video, the common theme here is Yuzuchi making Mei's life better. Because even though Mei is mean to Yuzuchi most of the time, that's kinda just her character, and as the show progresses, we begin to see cracks in that bad attitude, and it's clear that Mei is starting to see the benefits of having Yuzuchi in her life. Again, the writers make this very easy for themselves by choosing Mei's emotions very carefully. This reoccurring theme not only foreshadows the ending of the show, but it also makes the viewer really want to see these two characters end up together, and with that, the writers can make any little roadblock in their relationship a million times more painful to watch. And not just because they're stepsisters. 2 months later, and nothing has happened between Mei and Yuzuchi. Their entire relationship is stale, except that doesn't matter because their school and a bunch of other schools are going on a school's trip. A residential, if you will. On the way to the school trip, Mei and Yuzuchi end up getting separated onto different trains, which turns out to not be a terrible thing because Yuzuchi makes a new friend called Sarah who has a sister called Nina who's on the other train with Mei, and they're all headed to the same destination. Sarah was probably written to be the nicest character in the whole show, and while her niceness is nice, it can be a little bit overwhelming at times in the sense that it completely overshadows every other emotion that she could potentially be feeling.
You are such a generous person, Miss Yuzu. Thanks, but you don't have to call me Miss Yuzu. We're the same age, aren't we? Okay, then you can call me Sarah. Anyway, it's nice to make a new friend, Yuzu.
But I think this was done on purpose, because having to humanize a whole new character right before the end of the show would be a bit of a squeeze considering the usual runtime of these shows, and for the show to tie off every loose end with a neat little bow of closure before the ending, which they do, having a whole new character with inner demons to sort out right before the series end would just be annoying to make work. She tells Yuzuchi that she met this amazing girl at the train station, and she pretty much described it as love at first sight, but unfortunately, she didn't get any contact information or even her name, so they may never see each other again.
I wish I had remembered to ask for her name, though, because now I have no way of ever finding her again. But hey, if it's meant to be, it'll work out.
Also, pretty much every girl in this show is lesbian, apart from, like, Yuzuchi's mom. While on train, which is what I actually wrote, Sarah and Yuzuchi talk a lot about love, relationships, that kind of thing, and it didn't take long for Yuzuchi to spill the beans about how she's in love with her stepsister, but she's suppressing her emotions because she thinks that would be best for both of them. However, Sarah disagrees and says that if you love someone, it's only right that you let them know, and Yuzuchi takes Sarah's advice and plans to confess her feelings to Mei before the end of the school trip. Once everybody arrives at the hotel for the school trip, Sarah recognizes the girl that she fell in love with at the train station, and you guys aren't gonna believe this, but it's Mei. Mei, you guys, school president Mei. During the school trip, when Sarah manages to catch some alone time with Mei, she upfront tells Mei how she feels about her, but we don't know if Mei reciprocates these feelings until Yuzuchi tries to confess her feelings to Mei.
Yuzu. I have something I need to make you aware of as well.
But she gets interrupted halfway through just for Mei to be like, hey, just so you know, I've met someone, they asked me on a date, and I was like, yeah, sure. Now what were you gonna say? Yuzuchi was absolutely gutted when she found out that Mei was with someone else. In fact, she was so sad that she got drunk on soda.
I wonder who it is. If they said yes to this person, they've gotta be a perfect 10, right?
Because underage drinking might make the show controversial. Later that night, Sarah and Yuzuchi are in the hotel pool discussing their love lives while still completely unaware that they're after the same girl. Sarah tells Yuzuchi that she talked to the girl that she likes and they're now going on a date, and Yuzuchi tells Sarah that she talked to the girl she likes and she's now going on a date with someone else. Sarah leaves the pool before Yuzuchi does, but on her way out, she finds Yuzuchi's student ID card on the ground, and in a snoopy moment, she inspects it only to find that Yuzuchi's last name is the same as Mei's last name, So she now knows that she's going on a date tomorrow with the girl that Yuzuchi likes, who is also her stepsister. So the two stories are kind of joining up here. The next day, Yuzuchi decides that she's gonna tell Mei how she feels no matter what. So she asks around and finds out that Mei is gonna be on a date with her new girlfriend at the train station, because that's where Japanese people go on dates. That is culturally accurate. I am sure of it. But when she arrives there, she gets stopped by Nina, Sarah's sister, who tells Yuzuchi, "Cease! Do not go up to the top floor of this train station, because my sister is on a date with your stepsister, and she doesn't want to get interrupted with your antics."
Oh, May's with my sister. Because May is my sister's girlfriend, that's why.
Yuzuchi is pretty flabbergasted by this information, but regardless, she still insists on telling Mei how she feels, which leaves Nina to literally beg Yuzuchi not to do it.
Why is Sarah having a perfect date so important to you in the first place? They're the ones going out, not you.
Fine, I'll tell you why. My sister's constantly thinking about other people. She's someone who puts everyone's happiness before her own. Don't you see? If you tell her that you're in love with May too, then I just know she'll surrender on the spot.
She explains that Sarah has spent pretty much her whole life doing things for other people, and for once, just once, Nina wants to see her sister be happy for a self-centered reason. And I know the show isn't meant to be taken too seriously, which is why I thought it would be funny to take very seriously in a video, but in context, this is a really emotional moment, and for the amount of time this dilemma has to set itself up, it does a great job of making you question what the right option is. As the two of them are fighting it out, getting real angry at each other, throwing some hands, you know how it is, Yuzuchi gets a call from Sarah telling her to come up to the top of the train station and meet her. And since Nina is not going to argue with her own sister, who would do such a thing, they both reluctantly go upstairs and they see what's up. But they see that Sarah is standing there without Mei. All alone. This is because Sarah needed to talk privately with Yuzuchi for a bit. She hands over Yuzuchi's student ID card and explains that she ended her own date with Mei because Yuzuchi clearly is more in love with her than she is. Because of the way Sarah's character is written, we get the impression that this outcome would have made her happier either way, which is exactly the kind of closure we need in these last few minutes of the show. Although Nina did need some convincing that this was the right option, because she was pretty riled up about her sister always self-sabotaging for the sake of others. And my stupid hair. Sarah also tells Yuzuchi where she can find Mei, so Yuzuchi goes off and finds her. She finally explains that she's in love with Mei, and then the two of them, for the first time, actually kiss with mutual affection. And then I cried. And don't you judge me, because I know that if you had seen the whole show in full context like I had, you probably maybe would have cried too. And because of all the back and forth between these two characters, and how almost every episode was alluding that this would eventually happen, it was just a really heartwarming moment. I know this video is only going to be like 10 minutes long, but over the course of 12-20 minute long episodes, you kind of stop caring that they're stepsisters. Or maybe that's just me. Maybe that says something weird about my brain. The school trip is then over. Everybody packs up to go home. And at the train station, we see that Nina, Sarah, Yuzuchi, and Mei are all now a tightly packed friend group, and they agree to stay on good terms and to stay in touch with each other. Also, in the final few shots, we see all the other loose ends get tied off, because there is a lot happening in this show that we didn't discuss. It really is very well thought out, even though it may not look like that from this video. But yeah, that was Citrus. I know I haven't really done the show any justice by just explaining it in this video, and I understand why completely. I actually only started watching the show as an ironic joke because I thought I'm gonna be above it all, but I guess the joke's on me because I actually really enjoyed it. And you know what? Maybe there's a lesson to be learned in there about not judging books by their cover or trying new things. You know, you may never have heard this before, but you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And if I never took it upon myself to watch that hentai, then I would have missed out on a really great series with beautiful animation, lovable characters, massive controversy, creative storytelling, heartbreaking moments, and a really lovely cult following that has remained active since the original manga came out in 2012. Thank you all so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, and you've made my day just by being here. This video was actually a lot of fun to make. It was just very awkward in a lot of places. I know I say it every time, but I really appreciate your comments and you guys supporting the channel, because it makes this hobby so much more fun knowing that you guys will be on the other end of every video saying nice things, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry I didn't talk about the really sexually explicit parts of Citrus. If I ever talk about another hentai, I promise I will, but for now it just would have been too awkward to look the camera in the eye. Again, thank you, I love you. All the background music and the upcoming outro rap are linked in the descriptions on all streaming platforms, you feel me? I'll be replying to every single comment. As always, my Discord server is lit. How many more links can I promote? I don't know. And as always, I sincerely hope that you have a nice day.
Hey, it's J Cam in the building. I make a video now, I'm on track to make $1 million. I am really ill, so my beats are so sick, and my voice may be whack, but I'm making all the stacks. Yeah, I watch hentai every single day, talk about it on YouTube, and you see me getting paid. I don't fully regret making this video, but if my family sees it, I'm gonna kill myself. The next video might be about Holland, Miami. When I post this song, I'm probably gonna win a Grammy.